means forever, ever, hold on, never mind. Oh,
My name is Scott Moore, Union Pacific CAO and Senior Vice President, Corporate Relations. And today we are surrounded by the beauty of your mountains and the mammoth machines brought by Union Pacific, the 4014 and the 844. If you're a train fan, if you're a history buff, if you're a nature lover, today is a great day, and we are glad that you're here. I know some of you have traveled literally from across the globe to be here today, and we are glad you're here. Also, I want to say thank you for the city of Ogden. Although a little breezy, almost a perfect Chamber of Commerce day, I know the mayor's been all morning, and we thank you for your hospitality. We are going to start today's program with the national anthem and presentation of our colors. We have Ogden's own Katie Barton here, who is going to sing the national anthem in a moment, before her hometown here in Ogden. But with her will be Union Pacific's Honor Guard. Last year, the Union Pacific Honor Guard was selected to stand guard at the Memorial Wreath Dedication Ceremony in D.C. And last December, they performed at the ceremony for George Herbert Walker Bush's funeral train ceremony when Union Pacific transported an American hero to his final resting place. For those of you that are not standing, would you please rise for the presentation of the colors, followed by our national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red clear, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night
Thank you, Katie, and thank you, Union Pacific Honor Guard. If you can be seated, you may be seated. And now I'd like to welcome Union Pacific's Chairman, President, and CEO, Lance Fritz, to the stage. He is the man who gave the green light to bring Locomotive 4014 back to life. Lance, the microphone is yours.
Thank you very much, Scott, and thank you, City of Ogden. Thank you, Mayor Caldwell, and the 1,000 volunteers that are making today possible here in Ogden. Or should I call this Steamtown, USA? Amen. So let's get started. Let's get into what we're here for today. I want to introduce the celebrities of this morning. On my left, Union Pacific number 844, the living legend, brought to Union Pacific in 1944, topping out at a speed 110 miles an hour. Oh, come on, we can do better than that for the 844. Far down the track on my right, the latest steam locomotive to join the Union Pacific family, the big boy, Union Pacific 4014, all 1.2 million pounds, 7,000 horsepower of steel and fire waiting down the track. So let's get started on why we're here today.
Union Pacific Lance Fritz calling Union Pacific Big Boy number 4014. Over. Union Pacific 4014 responding to Chairman Lance Fritz. Come in, over. I'm in position in front of your locomotive. We're ready for you to make a move. Are you ready? Over. UP 4014 is ready to proceed. Chairman Fritz, over. Union Pacific 4014, take them ahead. Over. Understood. Here we come. Union Pacific coming ahead. Here we come, sir.
Okay, now that our star is here and the stage is set, I have a few more special guests I'd like to come up to the stage with us. First off, please welcome the 17th governor of the great state of Utah, Governor Gary Herbert. From Utah's 1st District, right here in Ogden, Congressman Rob Bishop. Next, we have Sandy Dodge, who is the great-great-nephew of General Grenville Dodge, who became Union Pacific's chief engineer during the great construction of the Transcontinental Railroad. And also Margaret Yee, whose great-great-grandfather was a chef for the Central Pacific Chinese track gangs. It was one of these gangs who set a record for laying 10 miles of track in a single day, a record that still stands today 150 years later. To both Sandy and Margaret, we can't underestimate the impact that your ancestors had on getting us here to today. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Chairman Fritz for some additional comments.
Thank you very much, Scott. You know, today is 150 years in the making. It's the culmination of what we learned as school children in our history class, the connecting of East and West. It goes all the way back to 1862. President Abraham Lincoln signs into existence the Union Pacific Railroad at one of the darkest moments in our nation's history. And his vision is that we're going to stitch the country together. We're going to have the Union Pacific building west from the Missouri, and we're going to have the Central Pacific building east from the banks of the American River in downtown Sacramento. And they will meet, and they will create one united nation. That story was about the visionaries that saw what this Transcontinental Railroad would do. It's about the workforce, the laborers working 12, 14, 16-hour days in the most brutal, punishing conditions to build this railroad virtually by hand. It's about our First Nations whose lives and cultures were changed forever. And it's about the communities that were created, communities like Ogden, that initially might have been a water stop or a way along a journey, and ultimately became economic engines in their own right. You know, the wedding of the railroads happened just 40 miles northwest of here on May 10th, 1869, and it changed America forever. Travel that took 6 months to go from New York to San Francisco at the risk of your life literally turned into a 10-day excursion in relative comfort. Global trade changed forever. Our diets changed forever. What we thought was possible changed forever. And while that connection was finally complete, and it was the culmination of years of hard work, the journey really was only beginning. The creator of the famous golden spike knew that better than all, as he inscribed on that famous spike a prayer that's as purposeful today as it was in 1869. May God continue the unity of our country like this railroad unites the two great oceans of this world. That's a hope that stands the test of time, and it still matters today. The Union Pacific family, all women and men, all 40,000 of us, are humbled to be a part of our history, to be connected to our urban settings, to our golden valleys, to our purple mountains' majesty. It's a humbling and awesome responsibility as well. We understand that we have the responsibility not just to honor the past, but to continue to grow, to be a part of the building of this great nation that we call America. With that, I'd like to turn the microphone over to our great governor of this great state, Governor Herbert. I'm so sorry, the governor reminds me. Vince, could you come up here for a moment, please? I'm going to tell a story where our special agent, Vince, comes up here to deliver a special package. This morning I had the great honor and pleasure to represent Union Pacific and give a few interviews to national media. When we were finished exiting the stage, Vince had run across a family, one of you, somebody in this crowd, who came here because Sally, her father, Mr. Gillies, who passed away roughly a year ago, his final wish was to become a part of the Union Pacific Railroad by being consumed in the boiler of the great 4014, the big boy. She told me that story. This is Mr. Gillies, and I want to share with you what's written on his ashes. The last wish was for his ashes to go through the firebox of the 4014 big boy. It was his life dream to see one in action, but cancer stopped him too soon. He was a train engineer. He worked in the United Kingdom on the Swindon Railways, a continent away. And Union Pacific and the 4014 big boy meant that much to him. So we're going to honor that last wish, and it is going to be our honor to do so. Thank you for reminding me of that, Governor Herbert.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And as a postscript to that, I met with the Gillies family earlier myself, and they mentioned that they had dinner last night in one of our local restaurants, told the story, and the waitress says, "I'll pray for you tonight that you can make that happen." And prayers are answered. So congratulations to the Gillies family. Thank you for that. Right, where are they? Can you stand up? Let's recognize them. Right there, all the way from the UK, from London. Prayers are answered. Well, I'm honored to be here with the First Lady and the Lieutenant Governor and our administration on what is really a significant occasion. As you've heard the Chairman say, the magnitude, the significance of what was accomplished here 150 years ago with joining of the Transcontinental Railroad is nothing short of remarkable. And what it did for our nation, what it did for us to bring us back together at a difficult time of our Civil War when we were divided, and yet, thanks to the leadership of Abraham Lincoln and others, we have this Transcontinental Railroad to help us come together as a nation. We've had a long and productive relationship, Mr. Chairman, with the Union Pacific Railroad because of that for these past 150 years. And here in Ogden City, one of the great railroad cities in America today, you can see the people that are here, Mr. Chairman, again, wanting to celebrate with you and the Union Pacific this wonderful occasion. So we're honored to have you here, and we thank Union Pacific for hosting us here today on this significant event. Now, as most of you know, I'm big into economic development, and I just ought to say, along with our transportation systems, we forget sometimes the significant role that the railroads play in our success as a state. We became the crossroads of the West because of the joining of the Transcontinental Railroads here at Promontory Summit. Again, the ability for us to, in fact, open up the West for colonization, to be able to, in fact, ship goods and services, to have people come here where it used to cost them $1,000 in months, if not years, to get here, which, by the way, would be about $19,000 in today's money valuation, reduced the price down to $135 for first class, about $85 for second class, and $65 for third class. I don't know where they rode in third class, but nevertheless, they were able to get here in 7 days. It was so quick that they used to joke, say, it's so fast, you don't even have time to take a bath. So again, what happened with the Union Pacific Railroad is remarkable for us as a country, as a state, but today it still is viable. Union Pacific last year spent, for example, $93 million on Utah's rail infrastructure. In the last 5 years, they spent over $240 million. Now, by the way, that creates about 1,284 jobs and impacting about 11,500 plus jobs here in the state of Utah. So we want to thank the Union Pacific for their contributions to our quality of life, our ability, in fact, to have great economics and becoming really the crossroads of the West. Thank you. Let me just mention one last thing. Again, a lot of people had roles to play. You can imagine the effort to build this railroad at difficult times. They had one steam shovel. That was the only mechanized equipment they had by the Union Pacific. Everything else was just kind of a human back-breaking, pick and shovel, wheelbarrow labor to go over hill and dale, to build tunnels, to build bridges. Again, difficult work. We happen to have, as has been mentioned already, some descendants of people who had a significant role to play in this effort. We have over 15,000 Chinese workers that over time of the construction worked on this railroad. And again, we're grateful to have some of their descendants here with us today to represent those railroad workers. We also have the descendants of General Granville Dodge. Yeah, give him a hand, give him a hand. Our chief construction engineer was General Granville Dodge, and his nephew is here today representing the family, and members of the family are here. Again, we couldn't have done it without the work of these two amazing groups and others that are part of this effort. So, again, I'm honored to be here on this significant occasion. We'll get together again tomorrow in kind of a reenactment of that effort. But I would say to us all, it's one thing to understand the history and to appreciate the magnitude and the significance of the event. But if that's all we learn, we're probably going to be underserved. We ought to understand the lessons from that history, that we can do difficult things, significant things during difficult times. We can dream big, and the sky is the limit to what we think we can accomplish as a people, particularly if we work together, set aside differences of philosophy and opinion, and work together, work hard, dream big, and success is unlimited of what we can accomplish as a community. So thank you for being here. Congratulations to one and all. I'll now pass the mic over to Congressman Bishop.
Now, Spike 150 Chairman Doug Foxley and Spencer Stokes are amazing people. Last night, coming back from the airport, I turned on KLO, and they were playing a radio western from the 1940s, where Jack Hadley and Wade Crosby had joined some railroad inspectors to try and take down a gang of train robbers. Now, Doug, I don't know how you worked that out and pulled that off, but it was spectacular for this particular time. Look, before the railroad, it was difficult for America to transfer goods and services and people. But after the railroad and 167,000 miles of track crisscrossed this country, all of a sudden America changed. Before the Civil War, England produced 6 times more steel than we did. After the railroad, not only were we #1 in steel production, we were producing 42% of all the steel in the world. The railroad created our economic explosion. The railroad made us into an industrial power. The railroad transported people. George Bishop and Alma Hardy came across the plains to Utah. Took them 4 months, and they walked every step of the way. But my grandparents, Amos Bishop and a young Alfred Zeziger, came with his family in relative comfort on a railroad that only took 4 days. You may have stopped my ability to join the Sons of the Utah Pioneers, but the railroad gave me a life, and it gave my family a better life. Big Boy, who is behind us, is not just a nickname Bush used in the White House. The Big Boy shows that when man's muscle cannot do the task, man's creativity and engineering and vision can create a machine that will accomplish the task. The railroad changed America. The railroad brought America into a new frontier. The railroad helped make this a better world.
Bishop, Governor Herbert, and Chairman Fritz. Congressman Bishop mentioned Spike 150, and of course tomorrow they'll celebrate the 150th anniversary of the driving of the Golden Spike up at Promontory Summit, and I hope you all go there. Now, if you know your history, they missed when they swung at the spike that day the first time. To make sure we don't do that today, we got one big enough that we can all touch, but we're not going to swing at it. So I'd like all of our guests to join me in paying homage to our past and offering prosperity for our future, just as our forefathers did 150 years ago. Let's grab them all, then I'll come back and close this up. Okay, one last thing. You know, we're going to close this event today the same way we closed that epic day 150 years ago tomorrow. Then, they used a state-of-the-art communication technique in the telegraph as they telegraphed to the country the completion. At 2:27 p.m. that day, a telegraph from Promontory. Almost ready. Hats off. Prayer is being offered. Chicago replies, we understand. All is ready in the East. At 2:47, the telegraph from Promontory was the simple word done. So please join me in using today's modern, state-of-the-art communication and share your location that you're here today by using whatever social media channel you use and tagging this moment #done.
Explode.